You are facing a wall, a problem that feels solid, immovable, and heavy. You have analyzed every angle. You have exhausted every logical path. Yet the harder you push, the more the solution seems to retreat. We are taught that resolution is a result of labor. We believe we must build the bridge to where we want to be. But have you ever noticed those rare moments when a solution simply lands in your lap? Those days when the right person calls, the right idea sparks, or the obstacle simply dissolves without effort. This is not luck. It is a signal that the version of you who has already solved this is not a future dream, but a present frequency. You haven't been looking for a solution. You have been looking for the version of yourself that is already living it. We have all felt that heavy sense of stagnation. It is the season where every door seems locked, and every effort feels like walking through deep water. You try harder, you plan more, yet the results remain the same. But then something shifts. Perhaps it was a small choice or a sudden change in your mood, and suddenly the water clears. Opportunities you didn't ask for begin to arrive. This pattern appears more often than we realize, yet we usually dismiss it as timing or temperament. Something strange happens in moments like these. It is as if the rules of your world have silently rewritten themselves overnight. We often overlook the fact that these shifts are not random events happening to us.
They are symptoms of a deeper mechanism at work. Why does the flow vanish just as quickly as it arrives? Why do some periods of life feel like a repetitive loop while others feel like a different reality entirely? The answer is hidden in the version of you that isn't struggling. Stay with me, because the mechanism behind this is far simpler than most people imagine. We usually call them good days or bad luck. We imagine these streaks of ease or hardship are just the weather of life, passing through without reason. But look closer at the timing. Have you ever noticed how in moments of genuine excitement or sudden clarity, the world seems to move out of your way? The green lights line up. The person you were thinking about sends a message. The very resource you needed appears in an overlooked place. This is where the pattern becomes clear. Then the contrast arrives. You hit a wall of anxiety or doubt, and suddenly the same world that was helping you starts to resist. Plans fall through. Simple tasks become grueling. This repetition suggests something deeper than a random sequence of events. It happens too consistently to be a fluke of timing. We often overlook the fact that these shifts in our external reality follow a specific internal rhythm. The ease doesn't come because the problem was solved. The ease arrives, and then the problem dissolves. This strange consistency is the first clue that we aren't just moving through a world of fixed objects.
We are moving through a field of possibilities that responds to the version of us we choose to be. This is where the experience begins to make sense. We are taught to view the world as a rigid, linear progression of events. We think we are moving through time, trying to fix things that are broken. But this teaching suggests something entirely different. Reality is not a single story. It is a massive library of simultaneous frames. Every possible version of your life exists right now. There is a version of you that is stuck, and a version of you that has already found the solution. They are both real. They are both present. The difference between them is not a matter of time or effort, but a matter of frequency. This reveals something important about how reality works. You do not create a solution. You align with the reality where the solution already exists. It is a shift in perspective that is far simpler than most people expect. We often overlook this because the shift feels so ordinary. We think we are just changing our minds, but we are actually changing our destination. The pattern of flow you noticed earlier wasn't a reward for your hard work. It was a signal that you had successfully tuned into a different version of yourself. This mechanism has been operating in your life since the moment you were born, quietly guiding every encounter and every roadblock you've ever faced. To understand how it works, think of a film projector.
The film itself contains every single frame of the movie, the beginning, the struggle, and the eventual resolution. All these frames exist on the reel simultaneously. However, the projector can only display one frame at a time. The frame you see on the screen depends entirely on where the light is directed. Your internal state, your mood, your beliefs, and your level of excitement is that light. When you change your state, you aren't creating a new frame. You are simply shifting the light to a version of the story that already exists. This explains why the pattern behaves this way. Why does the flow disappear the moment we ignore our inner signal? Because by moving into doubt or heavy resistance, we have mechanically shifted the light to a frame where the solution is no longer visible. It is like tuning a radio. If you want to hear the music on 101.5, you cannot find it by searching 98.2. You don't have to make the music happen. You only have to match the frequency of the broadcast. Suddenly, the shift makes sense. You don't work toward the solution. You tune into the version of you that is already standing within it. The idea of shifting realities is mathematically simple, but psychologically demanding. If the solution already exists, why do we stay stuck in the problem? The answer lies in our conditioning. We are taught to value struggle. We are told that working hard on a problem is the only way to earn its resolution. Because of this, when a moment of light or excitement appears, we often mistake our caution for intelligence. This is the moment the inner voice begins to argue. It tells you that following your joy is irresponsible. It insists that you must stay focused on the reality of the obstacle until it is defeated. And suddenly, the excitement is replaced by doubt. We confuse our fear with logic, believing that by worrying about the problem, we are somehow solving it. But in the mechanics of frequency, worrying about a problem only anchors you more firmly to the version of you that has it. This is where many of us lose the signal. We abandon the frequency of the solution because we feel safer in the familiar weight of the struggle. Have you ever noticed yourself talking your way out of a breakthrough because it felt too easy? If you've experienced moments where you silenced your own excitement in favor of what was realistic, I'm curious to hear about it in the comments. Despite the weight of old habits, the exit from a stagnant reality is always open. It is found through a simple three-part navigation system. First, look at the options available to you right now. Identify the one that contains even the slightest spark of more excitement than any other. It doesn't have to be a life-changing career move. It could be as small as taking a different route home or finally opening a book you've ignored. Second, act on that excitement to the best of your ability. Push it as far as it can go until you can go no further. Third, and most importantly, release any requirement for a specific result. This is where the navigation begins. You are not acting to get a result. You are acting to tell the universe which frequency you are now standing on. This is how the signal becomes action. The formula works best when followed with a sense of light curiosity rather than the pressure to succeed. By following the breadcrumbs of your joy, you are mechanically steering your life toward the version of you that has already solved the problem. If this perspective resonates with you, consider subscribing as we continue to explore the mechanics of how consciousness and reality interact. The change rarely starts with something dramatic. It usually begins in the quiet gap between your routine and a sudden, small impulse. You might be sitting at your desk, stuck on a project, when you feel a brief urge to walk to a different coffee shop than usual. Most people dismiss this as a distraction, but in this moment, it is the signal. You decide to follow it. While waiting for your drink, you overhear a conversation or run into an old acquaintance who mentions a tool or a contact that perfectly addresses the problem you've been struggling with for weeks. This is often how the shift begins. By following that tiny spark of excitement, you moved your light to a frame of reality where the information you needed was already present. You didn't force the encounter. You simply aligned with the version of the day where it was already happening. We often dismiss these moments as lucky coincidences, but they are actually the mechanics of reality in action. Have you ever followed a small curiosity that led somewhere entirely unexpected? You may have already experienced these shifts many times without realizing their significance. The signal is always there, hiding in the ordinary decisions of your day. This changes the way we understand the entire human experience. We often spend our lives trying to change the world, believing that if we rearrange the external pieces, we will finally arrive at the solution. But the deeper revelation is that you are not a passenger in a fixed reality. You are the consciousness that determines which reality is being projected. This suggests something remarkable about the nature of existence. The you who has already solved the problem is not a future version of yourself that you have to earn. It is a present frequency that is available right now. When you follow the signal of your highest excitement, you aren't just making a better choice, you are literally shifting your coordinates in an infinite field of potential. Suddenly, the pattern reveals a deeper meaning. Your joy is not a random emotion, but a sophisticated guidance system designed to help you navigate through parallel versions of your own life.
You may already be standing at the threshold of this realization in your own moments of sudden clarity. How different would life feel if we treated every spark of curiosity not as a distraction, but as a navigation signal toward a version of ourselves we have not yet explored? The wall you have been facing may not be an obstacle to overcome, but a signal that you are simply looking in the wrong direction. We often forget that the struggle itself is a choice of frequency. Perhaps the signal of the solution has been there all along, hiding in a small curiosity or a quiet impulse you dismissed as a distraction. Sometimes the shift begins simply by noticing that you are already standing in a field of infinite possibilities. As you move through your day, you may begin to see the patterns of flow and resistance with new eyes. You might notice how a single light-hearted decision changes the geometry of your entire afternoon. This awareness is the first step toward the version of you that has already arrived. If you are curious about the deeper mechanics behind how these internal signals shape your physical reality, the journey continues as we dive further into the mystery of consciousness.